I want to talk to you about the top 10 freight factoring companies. So, if you have a delivery business, whether you are a trucker or you are a cargo van driver, a sprinter van driver, or what have you, you will need to actually think about a freight factoring company from time to time because customers may start playing games with you when it comes to paying, actually. Okay. So, here are the best I want you to think about this year. Number one, I want you to think about OTR Solutions. I mean, OTR Solutions has been around for many, many, many years now. And so the cool thing about OTR Solutions is that you have instant funding options and true non-recourse factoring. Okay. So by the way, OTR Solutions used to be called the OTR Capital. So the cool thing about OTR Solutions is that they are really great when it comes to customer service. Okay, and you get paid real fast too. Okay, so this is really good. They have a specialized focus on let's say carriers. Okay, all kinds of carriers, truckers, cargo van drivers, sprinter van drivers, step van drivers, and what have you. And the cool thing is that they do also OTR in terms of on the road. So if you drive a OTR overnight, whatever, they basically will take care of you, and you get actually access. So you have access to your funds within 24 hours. That's really fantastic. Okay, you get your cash real fast. So that's the first freight factoring company I want you to think about. Number two, I want you to think about Apex Capital Corp. So Apex Capital Corp also receives generally positive customer feedback and is known for its customer service, but also its efficiency. Okay, and the company has been around for the last 30 years. That's really fantastic. Really, 30 years. They've been doing this. They've been kicking ass like crazy for 30 years. Okay, so you are able to actually navigate the factoring process, receive funds quickly, and ultimately grow your business through a collaboration, if you will, with Apex Capital Corp. And basically, freight companies of all sizes report feeling supported by Apex Capital Corp. Because the cool thing is that with Apex, you actually receive a dedicated account executive. You have 24/7 access to an online account management portal, and you have the choice between recourse and non-recourse factoring. So that, from a flexibility point of view, that's really good. On top of that, you'll receive a free credit checks, fuel card discounts, and a mobile app allowing you to factor from anywhere. If you're looking for the top 10 freight factoring companies, I want you to think about RTS. I mean, RTS is another biggie that's been around for nearly 40 years. By the way, 40 years. I mean, Apex was created in 1995, and RTS was created one decade earlier. Okay, so this is kind of cool. And when you think about RTS, think about fast recourse and non-recourse factoring services with low rates. Okay, that's really good, and you get your cash within 24 hours. And you also have a quality customer support through RTS. And RTS also offers equipment leasing options, a fuel card program, an agent referral program, and trucking related software to make your life even easier. So that's really fantastic. And so one thing I want to say here is that basically with RTS, you have to think about convenience. You have to think about speed too. The fourth player I want to share with you in today's conversation is Phoenix Capital Group. So Phoenix is another top freight factoring company. And the cool thing about Phoenix is that they are pretty flexible in terms of the large array of carriers that they cover. Okay, I mean, because when it comes to a freight factoring, some companies will say, you know what, we're not interested in small vehicles. We want to really focus on the big trucks. But Phoenix does it all. Okay, and so they also do recourse and non-recourse factoring, so that's really good. And Phoenix has a flat rate factoring model that caters to diverse needs and risk tolerances. So that's really good. In addition to that, you can take advantage of their load board, equipment financing options, and fuel card program, which provides discounts at 1,900 commercial stations. Okay, that's kind of cool. Now, while some clients report positive relationships with Phoenix, basically, others have experienced, let's say, untimely payments, difficulty contacting representatives, a smaller pool of approved brokers, and inconsistent support when it comes to back-end billing. So this could be a little problematic, especially if you value that type of support right off the bat. So just be careful when you reach out to Phoenix. Ask all questions beforehand so that you're clear as to what you're getting yourself into. Next, I want you to think about Porter Freight Funding. If you're looking for the top 10 freight factoring companies, think about Porter Freight Funding. And Porter, this is a relatively recent company because the company was founded 15 years ago. But hey, listen, even though it's a new company, it's still been kicking ass like crazy. So Porter Freight Funding offers a same-day invoice funding and competitive factoring rates to help carriers like you and me boost their cash flow and avoid the complications of unpaid invoices. And Porter Freight Funding is particularly useful to owner-operators and smaller carriers because the company provides personal representatives and recourse and non-recourse factoring. And this factoring company for truckers has also a dispatching network with pre-approved brokers and shippers and provides also fuel cards, insurance quotes, and compliance assistance. So that's really good. The next player I want to share with you is Rivera Finance. I mean, we actually know Rivera Finance on this show because they also do some financing. Okay, so they actually they do invoice factoring, they do freight factoring, but in some cases they also might help you when it comes to a business line of credit. But you have to really contact the company for actually for that information. Okay, but Rivera Financing is one of the OGs in the space of freight factoring because the company was actually created in 1969. So that tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about the track record of the company. It tells you about the longevity of the company. Okay, so Rivera Finance caters to small and medium-sized trucking companies, also cargo van businesses, sprinter van businesses, step van businesses, box truck businesses, and all kinds of carriers. And the company provides flat rates, customizable collection services. That's really good. And a client portal with access to all account information. So should you really factor with Rivera Finance, the company can help you streamline your cash flow and share their knowledge about the factoring process. So that's really cool because it really helps you scale your business real fast. Okay, that's really fantastic. And on top of that, you have an advanced mobile app, a fuel card program, and you also have 24/7 broker access. So that's really cool. If you're looking for the top 10 freight factoring companies, I want you to think about the TBS Factoring. And here's another player that you will love. And TBS Factoring is another trustworthy company offering truck factoring services, cargo van, step van, box truck. So let's just say delivery business factoring services to also to small and large companies. So size doesn't matter. With TBS Factoring, size doesn't matter. And so not only does TBS Factoring have a flat rate factoring, but they also offer recourse and non-recourse factoring programs. They also offer fuel cards, a mobile app, and more than 50 years of experience. Okay, 50 years. I told you a little earlier. That's really good. So whether you're just starting out or have been in the business for decades, TBS Factoring can help improve your cash flow this year. This is really good. So while TBS Factoring provides, let's say, carriers with knowledgeable account managers, customer reviews are kind of mixed. Okay, some customers praise their account managers, while others report inconsistent information and problems surrounding contract transparency and accessibility. Next, you have WEX. WEX is pretty good when it comes to fuel card, but this is this is a factoring player. Okay, so if you, I'm sure you know WEX for its fuel cards, but the factoring part of its business is pretty strong also. Okay, with WEX's flat rate factoring program, what happens here is that you will receive instant access to cash without any monthly minimums or invoice funding limits. You also have a dedicated account representative, so that's kind of cool from a flexibility point of view. You have a mobile application and you have fleet reporting and analytics, so that's kind of cool in terms of helping you with the granularity, with the kind of granular insights that you need to actually run your business a lot better. Plus, the cool thing also is that with the WEX, you won't need to factor all your invoices with WEX, giving you some much needed flexibility because some factor company want you to really do everything with them. Something to note is that previous customers state that they have experienced slow payments unclear contracts, chargebacks, and difficulty reaching their account representative. So something to have in mind. If you're looking for the best freight factoring companies, I want you to think about the Truck Stop. Now, Truck Stop is known for its load board. Truck Stop is known for its logistics side of things, but you also have a great freight factoring company in Truck Stop. Okay, though Truck Stop also serves large established carriers, its freight factoring program is best suited for newer companies or smaller fleets. So offering recourse and non-recourse factoring, as well as flat rate factoring without any minimum monthly volume requirements, TruckStop actually is accessible to a new and small carriers alike. So that's kind of cool. They also offer a mobile application, free broker checks, and TMS integrations, making it very easy to take advantage of the program when it comes to TruckStop's offering. And so that's really good. And one thing I want to say is that when you think about TruckStop, I want you to think about a bigger player in the freight factoring space. The final player I want to share with you in today's conversation is Orange Commercial Credits. Last but not the least, okay. So basically, Orange Commercial Credit is kind of cool in terms of flexibility. You have a service that's great for larger fleets, smaller fleets also. The company emphasizes flat rate factoring with no minimum requirements, transparent fees, seamless invoice uploading, and a dedicated account as executive. So this is really good. And additionally, Orange Commercial Credit has partnered with a fuel card provider to help carriers like you and me on various expenses. So this is kind of cool. But just keep in mind that the network, when it comes to Orange OCC factor, is relatively small. I mean, OCC, that's Orange Commercial Credit, okay? And so relatively small in the sense that you have about 2,000 stations so far. I mean, they are growing like crazy, but right now it's still small, okay? And but overall, you will love the fact that OCC Factor is actually a great company in terms of helping you get your cash a lot faster. So from a cash inflow, cash outflow point of view, OCC Factor is a great player to consider. So I just share with you the top 10 freight factoring companies to think about this year. Let me give you a little bit of overview about the whole conversation here. So finding reliable freight factoring companies is kind of challenging, you know. It's because the whole thing is you want to have a non-recourse factoring company, because when it comes to freight factoring, you do not want to have a recourse. Recourse is more complicated. But one thing for sure, you have to really understand that at the end of the day, you have to think about cash inflows and cash outflows. So you can switch from one factor to another if they're not doing the job you want. So if you are a carrier, you know how important having a healthy cash flow is. Without money on hand, you can't pay your drivers and employees, cover fuel expenses, meet other financial obligations, or even maintain operations. Okay, unfortunately, brokers and shippers don't always pay promptly. You may be left waiting on money for a completed job for months, forcing you to overextend your credit card or take on debts to keep afloat until the money you have earned arrives. Okay, so that's where freight factoring, that's where it comes in. So finding reliable freight factoring companies is challenging when it comes to the possibilities, the options that are there. Now, why should you work with a freight factoring company in the first place? Well, the answer is simple: cash. Access to cash real fast. Okay, so truck factoring, cargo van factoring, step van factoring, freighter van factoring, okay, or invoice, let's say factoring, allows you to quickly convert, upload, unpaid invoices into cash. So instead of waiting weeks or months for payments to arrive, what happens here is that you can receive the amount you are owed minus a small percentage your factoring company will keep within a day or two. So in some cases, you can get your cash within 24 hours. So when you work with a freight factoring company, you can overcome cash flow issues. You can fuel your operations. You can cover maintenance costs, and you can focus on expanding your business instead of, let's say, waiting for slow to pay brokers. And this is important to really think about it because your cash inflows are going to be quite essential for your organization. So let me give you a few considerations here. So I've been talking about the recourse versus non-recourse factoring, and that's important to really keep in mind because this distinction is going to have a big impact on your liquidity management strategy. So recourse factoring is more common and straightforward than non-recourse factoring. So what happens here is that your factoring company will buy your invoice, giving you the money upfront while they collect payment from your customer. However, if your customer never pays, your factoring company will issue a chargeback, forcing you to return the advance. Okay, that's really what what the recourse factoring stands for. So they have a recourse to charge you back. And on the other hand, non-recourse factoring companies take on the risks of unpaid invoices in exchange for a higher fee. So if your customer defaults or makes a late payment, you can still keep the money from your factoring company. And so non-recourse actually on that point on that aspect of things provides more peace of mind. Okay, but there is a catch because the thing is that most accounts receivable factoring companies that claim to offer non-recourse factoring only do so under particular circumstances. For example, your customer must file for a bankruptcy between when you submit your invoice and when your customer is supposed to pay it. Okay. Now, basically, since factors carry out broker checks, this is highly unlikely. As a result, non-recourse factoring is usually recourse factoring by another name and with a higher fee. So this is something to really think about, especially in the long run. The whole idea here is to make sure that you are working with pretty reputable companies, pretty reputable freight brokers, pretty reputable shippers. Okay. If you have to run a background check on the freight broker, if you have to check your freight broker's credit score, if you have to do a little bit of due diligence to make sure you are doing business with pretty reputable partners, that's actually the best way to actually even avoid the whole thing about the freight factoring. If you have to go through freight factoring, just make sure you have a pretty you have a less risky customer, because the less risky the customer is, the cheaper the freight factoring fee is for you. Because there is no, there's no risk. There is always a risk, but the risk is very low, and the factor will account for that low risk by charging you a relatively low fee. Okay, like maybe instead of 5% or 7%, they will charge you 2%. So instead of you will receive 98 cents on every dollar of recourse invoices. So that's really cool. So in conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about the top 10 freight factoring companies. I give you the best, the overview, the considerations, and now the conclusion. In terms of the best, you have OTR Solutions, you have Apex Capital Corp, RTS, Phoenix Capital Group, Porter Freight Funding, Rivera Finance, TBS Factoring, WEX, Truck Stop, and Orange Commercial Credit. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.